Back in 1971, Sunday wasn't just another day. It was the day, the one day of the week that belonged to nobody and everybody at the same time. It belonged to the family. It belonged to the table. It belonged to the smell coming out of that kitchen before the sun had even made it all the way up over the treetops. And Lord, if you grew up in America in those years, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, grab your coffee, and travel back in time with me. You'd wake up on a Sunday morning and the house already smelled different. It smelled like something was happening, like the day had a purpose. Before you even opened your eyes all the way, before your feet hit that cold floor, you could already smell the coffee percolating on the stove. Not drip coffee from a machine, real coffee, percolated coffee, the kind that bubbled and hissed and filled the whole house with that deep, dark, honest aroma. And underneath it, if you breathed in just right, you could already catch the first hint of what was coming later. Something roasting, something slow cooked, something that took time and patience and love to make. That was the thing about Sunday dinner in 1971. It didn't just happen, it was built. It was constructed through hours of quiet, careful, devoted work. Mom, or Grandma, if you were lucky enough to have her close, she was up before anyone else, before the kids were out of bed, before Dad had come downstairs in his good shirt. She was already in that kitchen, apron on, hair pinned back, working. And she worked with a kind of focus you don't see much anymore. She wasn't checking her phone. She wasn't half watching something on a screen. She was present, completely, totally present in that kitchen, and the kitchen knew it. Think about what that kitchen looked like. A big pot on the back burner, something simmering since early morning, maybe a pot roast, maybe a chicken, maybe a pot of beans with a ham hock dropped in the night before. Every family had their Sunday dish, that one thing that said home more than anything else in the world. And it wasn't made from a box or a packet or a can, not the main of it. It was made from scratch, from memory, from a recipe that lived not on paper, but in her hands, in the way she pinched the salt, in the way she knew just by smell when something needed another few minutes. And the table, oh, the table. On a Sunday in 1971, the table was a serious thing. It wasn't the kitchen table you ate your cereal at on a Tuesday morning, half asleep, still in your pajamas. No, on Sunday, the good cloth table came out, the one that lived in the linen closet the rest of the week, folded up neat and proper, waiting. Maybe it was white with a lace edge, maybe it was a deep burgundy with golden breads, but it was the good one, the Sunday one, and the good dishes came out too, not the everyday plates, the real ones, the ones that maybe came from a grandmother's house or were a wedding gift or were saved up for at the five and dime over the course of a whole year. Now here's something the kids of today are going to have a hard time understanding. In 1971, you didn't make plans on a Sunday. Sunday dinner wasn't something you scheduled. It wasn't something you confirmed with a text or circled on a shared calendar. It just was. It existed the way gravity existed, the way Tuesday followed Monday, the way the sun came up. Everybody knew they were going to be at that table. Nobody had to be reminded. Nobody had to be begged. Sunday dinner at a certain time at a certain table was as fixed a point in the week as any other fact of life. And you just showed up because that's what you did. That meant everybody, grandparents if they were in town, aunts and uncles who lived across town or the next county over, cousins you only saw at the holidays and at Sunday dinners, the neighbor who was a widow and didn't have anyone, the friend from church who was passing through. The table expanded. Extra leaves got pulled out from the closet. Extra chairs got dragged in from the back bedroom. The table got longer. And somehow there was always enough food. Somehow Mom had made enough. She always did. She always knew. Let me tell you what that table looked like when it was finally set and the food was out. This wasn't a single dish and done. This was a spread. The main thing in the center, that roast, that chicken, that ham, surrounded by everything else like a king with its court. A big bowl of mashed potatoes, real ones, made by hand with a potato masher, not electric, not from a box. Green beans cooked with bacon and onion until they were soft and silky and nothing like the green beans you'd get anywhere else. Corn cut fresh off the cob in summer, canned corn in winter, but prepared with butter and care. Biscuits or cornbread in a cloth-lined basket, still warm. Gravy in a boat, butter on a dish, sweet tea in a big pitcher sweating in the summer heat. And then there was the pie, or the cake, or the cobbler. Whatever it was sitting on the counter under a dome or a cloth, waiting for later. It had been made that morning too, or maybe even the night before, because a Sunday without dessert wasn't really a Sunday in 1971. It just wasn't. The dessert wasn't an afterthought. It was the promise, the reward at the end of the meal that kept the kids sitting politely even when they were fidgety and full and wanted to go outside. Now, let's talk about what happened when everybody actually sat down, because the sitting down was its own ritual. Dad sat at the head of the table, or Grandpa if Grandpa was there. That was just understood. The little ones got squeezed in on the bench or wedged between aunts. Somebody always had to get up one more time to fetch something from the kitchen. Somebody always forgot the salt. And before a single fork was picked up, before a single bite was taken, there was grace. Hands folded, heads bowed. In most houses across America in 1971, you prayed before you ate. Maybe just a few words, maybe a long formal prayer, but the moment happened, the pause happened, the acknowledgement that this food, this table, this gathering, it wasn't nothing, it was something worth being grateful for. And then the talking started. That's the part I want you to really sit with for a moment, the talking. Because in 1971, the Sunday dinner table was where things got said. It was the living, breathing news broadcast of the family. This is where you found out your cousin was engaged. This is where Grandpa talked about the war, the real war, WW2, the things he'd seen and done that he only ever talked about at the Sunday table with enough food in him and enough family around him to feel safe enough to open up. This is where your parents discussed money in that careful, coded way that adults had, the way you knew things were tight without them ever saying so directly. This is where your uncle made everyone laugh so hard that sweet tea came out of somebody's nose. There were arguments too, let's be honest. You put that many people around a table in 1971, and there were going to be words. Politics came up. Nixon was in the White House, and people had feelings about that. Vietnam was on everybody's mind and heart and conscience. The young men at the table, the ones of draft age, sat a little differently than everyone else. There was weight on those young shoulders. And sometimes at the Sunday table, the weight showed. An uncle who'd served in Korea would catch the eye of a nephew who was about to be drafted. Something would pass between them. The older women would change the subject with the instincts of peacemakers who'd been doing it their whole lives. But even with the hard stuff, maybe especially because of the hard stuff, the table held. That's the thing. The table held everybody. The laughter and the grief, the celebration and the worry, the little kids who didn't understand half of what was being said, and the grandparents who understood too much. The table was big enough for all of it. And when the meal was over, nobody rushed away. That was the other thing. You didn't eat and leave. You sat. You had another biscuit. You had a second cup of coffee. The men moved to the living room or to the porch if it was warm to talk more slowly and let the food settle. The women gathered in the kitchen to wash up, and the washing up took a long time because the dishes were many and the conversation was good. The kids ran outside, finally outside, and you could be out there until the light changed, until that golden late afternoon Sunday light turned amber and then started to go pink at the edges. That light meant the day was ending. That light meant Monday was coming. But right then, in the yard with your cousins and the neighborhood kids who'd wandered over, you were completely free. The Sunday dinner had been eaten, the family had gathered and talked and laughed and argued and eaten pie, and now the rest of the afternoon was yours. There is no more beautiful gift than that. Can you imagine what it was like to grow up in a house where that happened every single Sunday? To have that rhythm written into your body, into your bones. Sunday morning, you knew what was coming. Sunday afternoon, you lived it. Sunday evening, you felt the warmth of it settling into you, week after week, year after year. That kind of repetition isn't boring. That kind of repetition is the architecture of a life. It builds something in you that doesn't have a name, but that you feel its absence when it's gone. Because here's what that Sunday dinner really was when you get down to it. It was a statement, a declaration made without words every single week that this family, these people, they matter. They matter enough to cook for all day. They matter enough to bring out the good dishes. They matter enough to clear your schedule and show up and sit down and pass the potatoes and look each other in the eye. In 1971, the Sunday dinner was a weekly act of love. Not romantic love, not the love of greeting cards or Valentine's Day. The deep, practical, unglamorous, completely real love of people who belong to each other. Now, I want to ask you something. Think about your own Sunday dinners. If you grew up in this era, in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, you know exactly what I'm describing. You can smell it right now if you let yourself. You can hear the particular sound of that kitchen on a Sunday morning. You can feel the particular weight of the good fork in your hand. And if your parents or grandparents told you about their Sunday dinners, you carry that too, even secondhand. Even a story about a Sunday table from 60 years ago can settle into you like a real memory. What happened to it? That's the honest question, isn't it? I'm not going to pretend I have a simple answer. Life got faster. Both parents started working. Kids got more activities, more schedules, more places to be on a Sunday. The church attendance that had anchored the morning started to drop. Families spread out farther from each other, not just across town, but across time zones. And somewhere in all that movement and busyness and expansion, the Sunday dinner lost its hold. Not all at once, gradually. The way daylight fades, you don't see it going, and then suddenly it's dark and you're surprised. But here's the thing, and this is important, it hasn't disappeared completely. There are still families across America who do it, who wake up on Sunday and get to that kitchen and make the real thing, who set the good table, who expect everybody to be there and don't make excuses. There are still grandmothers who can produce a Sunday spread that makes grown men go quiet with gratitude. There are still families where the Sunday dinner is the 1 hour of the week when the phones go face down and the conversation is real and the laughter is the kind that shakes the table. And if you're someone who still does it or who wants to bring it back, God bless you, honest to goodness, because what you're doing isn't just cooking a meal. What you're doing is building something. You're building the architecture. You're giving people in your life a fixed point, a place and a time that says, you matter. This family matters. We show up for each other. We sit at the same table. We eat the same food. We look at each other's faces and we remember who we are and where we come from. You know what I think about when I really sit with this memory? I think about my grandmother's hands. I think about the way they moved over that stove, confident and quick and knowing. I think about how she never looked at a recipe, how she tasted with a spoon and adjusted with her instincts, how she could feed 12 people from ingredients that would have fed 6 because she knew how to stretch things and supplement things and make everything go just a little further. Those hands fed my family for decades, fed them through hard times and good times, through grief and celebration. And when she was gone, we realized how much of the Sunday dinner lived in her hands and not anywhere else. We tried to write the recipes down after. It's not the same. It never is. That's what I want you to think about today. If you still have someone who makes that Sunday dinner, who carries that tradition in their hands, in their heart, in their kitchen, go be with them. Go sit at their table. Ask them how they do what they do. Write it down if you can. But more than writing it down, be there. Be present. Let the smell of that kitchen settle into your memory permanently. Let the sound of that table, the conversation and the laughter and the passing of the bowls, let it become part of who you are. Because one day, it will be you who carries it. One day, you'll be the one who gets up early on a Sunday morning and ties on the apron and gets to work. And if you've already lost that person, if that Sunday kitchen is quiet now in a way it never used to be, I want you to know that you're not alone in that feeling. There are millions of Americans who know exactly what it is to walk into a kitchen on a Sunday morning and feel the absence of someone who used to fill it. That ache is real. It's as real as anything. But so is this. The tradition they passed to you is still yours. The memory of that table belongs to you completely, and there's nothing stopping you from building it again, from setting the good dishes out, from making the thing that says home, from gathering the people you love and telling them without words that they are worth all of this. Back in 1971, nobody called Sunday dinner a tradition. They didn't use that word. They didn't have to. It was just life. It was just what Sunday was. The word tradition implies something fragile, something you have to be careful to maintain. But Sunday dinner back then wasn't fragile. It was as solid as the table itself. It was as permanent as the family. It didn't need protecting because nobody could imagine it not being there. And that's the beautiful, bittersweet lesson of it, isn't it? We didn't know we were living something worth treasuring. We didn't know to hold on to it tightly. We just lived it, Sunday after Sunday, year after year, until one day the world changed fast enough that we looked up and realized what we'd been given and what we'd slowly let slip away. But we didn't lose everything. We kept the memory. And memory is not a small thing. Memory is the place where the people we've loved and the moments we've lived continue to exist with full force and full color. When you close your eyes and let yourself go back to that Sunday table, when you can smell the roast and hear your grandfather laugh and feel the warmth of everyone you loved being in the same room at the same time, that's not nothing. That's everything. That's the whole thing. That's America. That's what it meant to be a family in this country in 1971. And you know what? There was something beautiful about that, something simple and human and true that doesn't need to be improved upon. You didn't need an app to gather your family. You didn't need a reservation or a to-go order or a delivery arriving in a bag. You needed a kitchen, a recipe in someone's hands, a table big enough, and the shared understanding that on Sunday, this is where you belong. Plain and simple. That's it. That was the whole formula, and it worked. Lord, it worked. So today, wherever you are, whatever Sunday looks like in your life right now, I want you to take just a moment, close your eyes if you can, and go back to the best Sunday dinner you ever sat at. Maybe it was at your grandmother's, maybe at your parents' house when you were young. Maybe it was your own table years ago when the kids were little and the house was full. Find that table, find those faces, find that smell. Let it wash over you completely, because those are your people. That was your table. And no matter how many years have passed, no matter how scattered everyone has gotten, that moment still exists. It always will. Life in 1971 taught us something we're still learning how to hold on to. It taught us that the most important things aren't the big dramatic moments, the events, the milestones, the things that make the news. The most important things are the repeated, ordinary, everyday sacred moments. The Sunday dinner, the hands that cooked it, the table that held everyone, the grace said before the first bite, the laughter in the middle, the pie at the end, the long, slow afternoon afterward. That was the real America. That was the heart of it. And I believe, I truly do, that heart is still beating. Well, I hope this story reached you today in the place it was meant to reach you. I hope it brought something back, a face, a smell, a sound from a Sunday a long time ago. These stories deserve to be told, and they deserve to be heard, and I am grateful every single time I get to share one with you. If this video touched your heart, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories, and these stories need to be found. Tell me down in the comments, what was your Sunday dinner? What was the dish that meant home? What was the smell that hit you when you walked in the door? Who was the person who made it? I want to hear it. Every single story. Drop it down below. Share this with someone who needs a little Sunday today, someone who could use the reminder of where they came from and who they belong to. And subscribe so you never miss a story, because we've got more to tell, and every one of them is worth your time. Take care of yourselves, folks. Set the good table when you can, and we'll see you in the next story.